The recent closing of Haskell caused some ill feelings, all kinds of charges and counter charges that became quite contentious at times. Here's what I'm talking about. Here's the October 10th newspaper, and the headlines in the article was, "Even Flint mayor allies on city council rebel against moves," and those have to do with the Haskell Center and the police department reorganization. But here's a little note in here in this article that pretty well describes what's going on. Some of the outrage, the city council outrage, stemmed from his decision, Williamson's decision last week to close Haskell Community Center. Williamson said it was a budget decision, but residents and some council members called it retaliation against Councilwoman Jackie Poplar, whose ward includes the center itself, Haskell, and who opposed the police plan. She says, and the other council people are saying, it was retaliation. The police department said the reorganization of the police department was retaliation against them for speaking out and voting no confidence in the police chief and going to the city council and making allegations of racism. So we have all these things that have jumped up here, and now we have this Haskell Center being closed and the allegations of retaliation there also, and hopefully now that it may be getting ready to be reopened with the help of the Mott Foundation, the Board of Education, and what have you. It's really needed. I just live a short distance from there, right across the street, and we often use the park, and you know, there's a tremendous baseball diamond there, there's tennis courts, there's a great basketball gym inside, brand new floor, swimming pool if they would put it back in operation. I mean, there's a lot of good things at Haskell, and it's a big park. And to the credit of the park board, it does keep it up. The grass is cut in the park, the dead trees are removed, and it really is something that is a credit to the city of Flint, and frankly is very much needed in that area of the town. So hopefully it can get reopened. Now last week, as I told you at the start of the program, I mentioned to you I wanted to discuss this Williamson administration asking for nearly $2 million increase in millage for homeowners to pay to fix up and repair city sidewalks. Now here's Channel 12's report on that. Can you play that, please?
Makeover on the city's sidewalks. The director of the Transportation Department presented the plan to the City Council just moments ago. ABC 12's Dawn Jones was there. She joins us live from City Hall with more on the plan, all new tonight at 6. Dawn?
Well, hi there, Angie. City officials say the city has a multi-million-dollar sidewalk problem here in the city, and as you mentioned just moments ago, the city's transportation director presented a plan to the Flint City Council. He says this plan will improve the appearance of the city's sidewalks and also make the sidewalks much safer. Now, the catch to the plan is the city wants residents to pick up the tab for this sidewalk extreme makeover. The city is requesting $1.9 million to fund a citywide sidewalk repair program over a 10-year period. They say the millage would raise approximately $3.2 million in the first year. It would cost the average homeowner in the city of Flint $60 a year to fund the program. Now, if it's approved by the residents of the city of Flint, the city says inspections will take place in all 9 wards of the city to see which sidewalks need to be replaced. Now, once that's determined, crews will then start the process of having the sidewalks replaced, beginning in the northwest corner of each ward. The sidewalk improvement project would employ nearly 50 people, dozens of them youth who would be hired to work on the project as part of a job training program. The city's transportation director, Bill Ayers, says the project will be beneficial for the city in a number of ways, including reducing the number of lawsuits that result from poor sidewalk conditions, and it will relieve residents of the burden of repairing sidewalks themselves.
It's the responsibility of the homeowners to maintain those sidewalks. Because of the economic conditions in the city of Flint, we have been reluctant to enforce that. If this millage passes, those ordinances will be repealed, and the sidewalks will then become the responsibility of the city of Flint.
And the city says they will repair every inch of sidewalk in the city of Flint. The city council was not asked to make a decision on the proposal tonight. Bill Ayers says that he hopes that the council will make a decision by the next finance committee meeting coming up in November, and he hopes to get this issue on the ballot in February. For now, we are live in Flint at City Hall. Dawn Jones.
You know, I like Bill Ayers, the Flint Transportation and Neighborhood Service Director that you just saw in there. And I think, like others feel, that he does a fine job putting our streets back together after years of neglect by previous administrations. And I'm also sure he's only really parroting what Williamson wants him to say here. But it comes down to priorities. You know, the city of Flint has many other special needs, special millages we are paying for right now that, in my mind, has a greater priority than sidewalks, especially when you consider that many homeowners whose sidewalks needed repairs already have put their own sidewalks in at their own expense. You know, also there may be other public monies that could be used for sidewalks in lieu of another increase in our millage. You know, we have federal block grant money that the city now receives, $3-4 million. Some of that could be diverted to help in the sidewalk repairs, especially if we're allowing some of this money to be returned to the federal government unused. Now, there is some limitation on where this money can be used, but it's a large part of the city. There's large areas that it can be used in, usually low-income people. And they're the ones that can least afford to put their own sidewalks in now. You know, the question I have is, where is our regular taxes going that we pay every day? And we mentioned that the property tax, the income tax fees that we're paying. It seems to me, before we start using up the goodwill of our citizens on miscellaneous things like sidewalks, we ought to be exerting our efforts in the direction of getting support for example, our park millage renewal, which comes up next Tuesday. The health plan that's on the ballot also. I mean, very important things. You know, and keep in mind here, there's a disproportionate number of homeowners who are absentee landlords. You know, you can bet any of the increases, as in the past, usually have been passed on to the renters in higher rent payments. Again, the persons that ultimately pays the piper is the person who can least afford it. They're usually, in many cases, impoverished and typically financially strapped renters. Now here's an interesting little side note here that may indicate that that next year's mayoral election may be playing a part in this move by the mayor to fix up the sidewalks. You see, the local ordinance calls for individual property owners to pay for their own sidewalk repair. Now, if the mayor got the millage passed, I can envision you know, that next spring and summer, just before the mayoral election, all the city repair activity going on in front of homes all over the city, and the mayor being praised for cleaning up the city. See, the problem here is that the taxes are not supposed to be used for this purpose. Of course, Williamson could care less because he gets to use the tax money to help him get reelected. Of course, this is nothing new for him. You know, just recently he put 2 political operatives on the city of Flint payroll as employees with no particular duty other than to get him elected. You know, I really have nothing against these 2 people he hired. One is Larry Ford, who used to be head of the Chamber of Commerce, and Herb Cleaves, who has been politically active in this community, very knowledgeable. And I've known both these guys for years, and I've always gotten along with them. I always consider them friends. They may not have to consider me one after this program, but I still consider them friends. And I've known them as very good political operatives. But it seems to me, with all our other city expenses and laid off police officers, Williamson should pay his own expenses when he's running for re-election. Now, keeping in mind, according to the Journal Investigation, a new sidewalk costs about $150 per sidewalk block, you know, the square you have out there. When you consider what the taxpayers are paying in salary and benefits to these 2 gentlemen, it's over $100,000. We could put in a whole neighborhood of sidewalks with that money. Like I said, he ought to pay these expenses out of his own pocket and free up this tax money we're paying them for other purposes. How about a couple of new cops to fight the rising crime rate in Flint? I honestly can't see how he can justify these jobs for his friends when cops are still on layoff and the citizens have to wait hours for responses to their 911 calls because the shortage of police available to respond. We can't waste money like this. Yeah, here's a story that I believe demonstrates kind of a blatant disregard by certain public officials of their sworn solemn oath of office that would put our citizens, because of their failure to obey their oath, that put our citizens' very lives in jeopardy. You know, Flint, Michigan has been given the dubious distinction of being the 3rd most violent city in the United States. Now, if you think I'm exaggerating, take a look at the survey presented first by CNN and then Flint's Channel 12 coverage of the same issue. Can you play that, please?
Cities in a new survey, followed by Detroit. Detroit normally tops that list, sorry to say.
Camden, New Jersey.
Camden, yeah. The cities are ranked by crime rate, giving more weight to more violent crimes. Camden, New Jersey topped this list the past 2 years. On the flip side, these cities top the list of safest cities. Brick, New Jersey is number 1. Where's Brick? About 78,000 residents live there. Okay, just about 70 miles from New York. Amherst, New York, and Mission Viejo, California, also in the top 3.
All right, so getting the fat out. Talk in the Big Apple.
New numbers just out today suggest an increase nationwide, but once again, Flint is near the top of the list. In cities with more than 75,000 people, St. Louis, Missouri ranks first for crime. That's according to Morgan Quitno Press. Their researchers put Detroit second and Flint third. Compton, California, and Camden, New Jersey round out the top 5. ABC 12's Josh Devine has reaction from here at home. First at 4. Good afternoon, Josh.
Good afternoon, Terry. Flint's police chief says it's really pretty simple. The research, in his opinion, is slighted against bigger cities.
I say if you're going to present a picture of your likelihood to be a victim of crime, present the entire picture. Don't just present an urban picture. Present what these smaller municipalities have.
Researchers with Morgan Quitno crunched the numbers for cities with more than 75,000 people. Obviously, that includes Flint, but not Saginaw. So the chief's point here, if researchers included every jurisdiction, Flint's situation would not look quite so grim. Now, the study considered individually these 6 crimes, including murder, rape, robbery, aggravated assault, burglary, and motor vehicle theft. Statisticians crunched the numbers provided by the departments to the FBI and compared them to national averages.
People with time on their hands and a lot of pressure, that can cause problems in family situations, in neighborhood situations, and it can spill over. And so there's a larger scheme to this. There is no one simple answer. It's about working with the community to help make the community a safer place.
And Flint's number 3 ranking is an increase over last year when the group ranked Flint number 4 nationally. By the way, the group also did some metropolitan rankings, and those are a city and its surrounding areas, and Saginaw did make that list. In those national rankings, Flint ranked 7th, Saginaw 14th. Up at 5, we'll have the very latest in reaction from the chief, plus a victim of violent crime here in the city of Flint. We're live at Flint Police Headquarters. Josh Devine, ABC 12 News.
Of course, we didn't have to be told by CNN or even Channel 12 that we have a real problem. We already know it. Crime in our community, I think if you ask most people, is really out of control. Violent assaults, murders, rapes, robberies, home invasions are all common in our city today. While we have very dedicated police officers, they find themselves understaffed, overworked, even undergunned. They're called upon every day to do the near impossible. That is, guarantee our citizens' safety against the ever-growing violence perpetuated by a lawless criminal element. In the face of this rising tide of violence, we have kind of a dysfunctional mayor's office that is more concerned with playing cat and mouse games with the cops. While the police are trying to cope with the overwhelming odds they are facing every day on our violent streets, the mayor of the city spends most of his time trying to create ways to retaliate against the police for, among other things, just recently refusing to refrain from exercising their constitutional right of free speech when they went before the city council and complained about the possibility of racism in the police department. And they complained that the police chief was ignoring their complaints in hiring and promotion. And even the police department itself were having possible confrontations between white and black police officers because of the unsettled conditions in the police department. We mentioned that as one of the things they dealt with in this memorandum of understanding by the Flint Police Department and the city of Flint. There is problems that we have to deal with. And that's why the Justice Department obviously came in here. Instead of dealing with the problems, the mayor sits around retaliating, not only against the police, but the city council people for not doing what he wants. He orders one-man patrols in the cars. You know, that's really unacceptable to the police. It violates their contract. His response is, I don't care what the contract says.